know that I love magic, especially because I will come on Facebook looking like this after a weekend of a lot of traveling. But somebody asked me something that I figured was fairly important. Um, Somebody was trying to do a protection spell that they found in a book that Mama Star wrote, because I sell Mama Star's books at my store. And oh, Motown Witch, if you're listening, I've got the necklace on I bought from you. Oh, and meet my new little friend who's going on my front door. Um, but needless to say, I have a friend, a Facebook friend, who asked me about, well, okay, I got to do a protection spell going into my house, to my new spot. I want peace where I'm going, but I don't have any graveyard dirt because all of my ancestors live overseas. And I'm like thinking about the times I've done protection spells. You know, to me, and this is the point that's really important here, is that whole personal bit. My phone looks a little cloudy. Hold on. No, that didn't help much. But anyway, um, my personal spell work, protection work, man, it's like, I think the really important thing for protection is having that contact with your ancestors and your spirits. Because for me, protection, my folks were, let's just put it this way, not all right in the head coming up. So that's why I don't like to deal with a lot of evil spirits, because as Alafia said, not all of our ancestors are nice people. And while I believe that my ancestors, the ones I venerate, are good people, that didn't necessarily mean that they were nice. You can be good and not be kind. You can do things that are good for good and not always be kind. Now, most certainly not always be apologetic. So, when I'm thinking about protection spell, what I'm thinking about is, man, that spiritual, you got me, I got you. When I was grieving my mother's death, it was really hard because we'd spent a lot of years not having a good relationship. Jezebel, if you bite me again, I swear I'll stomp you. I need a new fur collar. If you bite me one more time, this cat. Anyways, you better go on somewhere. When my mother died, I went terrible grief. And it wasn't because we had this wonderful, beautiful relationship. It was the fact that we really didn't. But we had come to terms to loving each other in the end. And me having a kid helped me get her just a little bit more. And, her about to die made her, get me just a little bit more. So when you're talking about protection, all I can think about is, okay, I don't really need to get their dirt for their protection because of the relationship I built with them. Now, I don't know. Y'all can say, okay, maybe that's the way she feels. But, okay, what if it's true? Just like when Christians try to tell me that, Yahweh's the only God. But I'm like, but what if my God or gods are true? And they look at you because there's no real answer. So what works for one person doesn't work for another. And that is really the whole point while I'm doing this and not eating the salad that I have sitting over here taunting me, telling me to eat it. And it's not vegetarian, Scotch and chicken is. So don't think I'm on, Facebook posing, trying to be all, healthy like I should be. So I never had to use my graveyard dirt because their presence has been that strong with me for a very long time. I had an ancestor wall of pictures before I knew anything about that. Because why? Because that's what my family did. So it moved from an ancestor altar to a lamp and their name put on the lamp when they passed and pictures. And what people don't realize is that's an ancestor altar. That ancestor altar has been done in that family's way. So one of the first things I had to get away from, and it was probably because of my mentors, they were very creative in the things that they did. So I was never really one for getting down with following somebody else's spell, word by word. But I'll tell you what they told me. Use the parts that are applicable to you. Change the parts that are not. It's just like prayer. Like, for example, one of my besties is on here, Nina. One of my spiritual sisters is on here, Cinnamon. Hey, and Jerry and Daisy, y'all know me. We all get along on a really close and intimate level in different ways. Okay? Same thing with your ancestors. You are going to all develop sometimes similar relationships that you had in life. If you're blessed, if you're really, really working on this, your relationships are going to be stronger. And that's the day I stopped actively grieving my mother. Because instead of, oh man, I wish I could call my mom, because I used to call her probably about the same time every day, never during Wheel of Fortune and never before 10 a.m., okay, just so y'all know. And I am turning into my mother. Not the Wheel of Fortune part. Don't call me before 10 a.m. One of my lovely, lovely clients and friends I met for the first time flesh at Dayton Trade Pride called me at 8:46 this morning. And see, I know that the little wild are in me. I know they're working on me because I'm a different person than my mother was when you called her before 10 o'clock in the morning. But the day that I stopped grieving my mother, and just because you're spiritual, just because you practice necromancy, doesn't mean that the end of human life doesn't hurt. It may hurt less. It may hurt in a more profound way. But at some point, if you are ancestor venerating and you're really, 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 really trying to do this, it's different than just kind of putting pictures on your mantle. It's really like, it's one of those, when it's spiritual, sometimes it's intangible and it can't be answered. But if anybody has ever had a situation where spirit has spoken to them, and I don't care what that spirit was, and it came through, other people who have active communication with the dead will tell you that's the same way it feels every time. So I don't even think it's so much that you train yourself to listen to spirits. It's that you had the experience and you know when it's coming. I've had friends tell me that they've had to control when a spirit has mounted them, because I've never been in that position, because I haven't done it. I can't say one way or the other. I'm like, because right now, personally, in my mind, spirit's way more powerful than that. So I'm, and then at that point, you're going to wonder, I think there's a certain humility to working with spirits as well. A lot of people, whatever floats your boat, Hi, hey, Yaya. Hi, Camilla. A lot of people work and they believe that they generate the magic. And I do believe we are the magic, but we believe that we are the magic for totally different reasons. They don't believe in deities. They believe in, say, nature. And for us, nature is a deity, So people are going to work in different ways, and it can be maybe semantics to some people, or it could just be the way your magic is personalized to you. I think that it's very healthy to develop your own magical practice. You got to learn certain things, like initiated religions. There are regulations. There are things you've got to learn. There's things you got to do, and people want to play like that. Is not a thing either, but you cannot say that you are a follower of a religion or you follow a particular deity and not be willing to adhere to said religion's practices. It makes no logical sense. But, there are certain practices and certain things that we do develop on our own. And I think that our spirituality, our ATRs, our religions help us do that better. Okay? But not everybody is meant for initiation, priestesshood. And a lot of folks, people are seeking after it. If you're doing that for power or something like that, somebody said that this weekend. It was amazing. That was not my quote. But somebody said, if you were, it was Renee Dooley. She said, if you're initiating for power, you're initiating for all the wrong reasons. I can't even claim that. I learn from everything and everybody. That's why I have this very high regard and very big respect for the power of spirit. And because it's like, it's so funny. I have to laugh about every time you see that silly Raven. It's so Raven when she has that like psychic thing happen to her. It's greatly exaggerated, but there is some type of spin that goes on in your mind when you're registering something that's not from you. And the only way people can accomplish that is to pay attention to how your mind is working when certain things happen. We had a lecture at the First African Temple of Ancestor Veneration today. And people who are part of that temple, who are in the group, have access to these lessons. And what we had today was mind balancing. Okay? See, I'm always thinking probably the opposite of it, mind mapping certain things. But, missing that element of spirit. Okay? We're not teaching ourselves these principles. Probably since the Industrial Revolution, since the Industrial Revolution, we've lost that connection with spirit because things have been automated. Anybody who, yes, the little spin, it's messed up and it's scary. When you have to admit, when you first started, before you knew what magic was, and that stuff hit your brain, it was like a high. You're like, whoa, what's going on here? Where'd that come from? But then as you really, my ears are ringing. I think when you come from different atmospheres, like levels of like sea levels and things like that, sometimes it does mess up things to your ears. But, the thing is, really trying to get really back to the point, the more you work with spirit, the more what it is that they want, what they're telling you, what they want for you, because that's the biggest thing, and people don't get that. It's about what your ancestors want for you. Think about that. Think about what type of parent you are to your children. And I'm going to say this, good parents, because I'm not going to be all everybody gets a trophy. There are some really great parents, some really rotten parents, and most of us fall somewhere in between. Okay? But at the bottom, it takes a really horrible, 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 horrible parent not to want what's best for your children. So, when you start thinking about every time you made a decision and you were like, what did you think that was? But you went ahead and did it anyway. Because I know I did. I tried. That's one of my, I think, is my biggest spiritual accomplishments. That, like, when you get ready to fight somebody and you just kind of, and that instead of turning around, and because that's a great way to get people, you just keep walking. And I think for a lot of people, especially A-personality people, I don't know how in the world I'm a Pisces, but I don't know who was saying this the other day. Oh, I was probably listening on Instagram that your sun sign, everybody looks at the sun sign. That's another thing you need to be careful about, overgeneralization. Because you can't tell me that there weren't other people who looked at the moon sign as more important, or your ascending or descending, or your house. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the evidence of those things exists. So there is a difference. But a lot of times, we're just given the first layer. Like, for example, Christianity. And, Judaism. One God. It gone down from many, many, many to one. And then this one was like, hey, we got to get back a couple gods. So you get the Father, you get the Son, you get the Holy Spirit. I try to explain to people the thing about statues. It's kind of funny to me because I loved the Catholic statues at first. Of course, when you first get into practicing, it's just it's mystical. Everything your boring Protestant church never did. And then you start thinking about colonialism and some of the reasons why they're there, and it's like, do I want to keep these statues in my practice? And different houses will tell you different things. But then understanding that wow. They always try to say that we secretize our spirits into them, but that's impossible because our spirits are older than theirs. So what Christians did when the Christian church was established and moved all those pagan holidays over, they secretized our God and their saints. So it's kind of like, all right, I see what you did there. But they don't see what they did there. So I know that's a deep concept. And I know, I think about stuff like that. And I'm like, are they going to understand what I'm talking about here? And the only reason why I kind of picked up on that is I do everything by association because I'm forgetful, okay? Destroyed a lot of brain cells as a young person. But, you get into routines and you start remembering the importance of the things that you're doing. And if you're doing something that's meant to happen over and over again, and that's just simple logic. If you're doing something that's meant to happen over and over and over again, whether it's good or bad, it's meant to happen. It's going to happen. So we don't realize the full extent of our brains because and I always fall asleep on it because, God, it's boring. And I remember I had strep throat in January. I tried to watch it. But the only really important part that we got from that was we only use 2% of our brain. And what about the rest? And they start talking about people that have been able to tap into different parts of their brain. So, for people who are psychic, like we were talking about, that spin happens in our brains, and you can't really explain it to somebody who doesn't have that particular talent. And the talent is it's a gift, rather. I think it's a gift. Talent, I guess, to me, can kind of be developed, but gifts are one of those things that come to you prepackaged. What you see is what you get. And I was talking to my child tonight about how we receive gifts from people. It's like, as a giver, you got to think about, what you want them to feel rather than what you want them to have. So that's also a very important concept to remember. But back to the original point, and I didn't even plan to be on here that long, is that, it's sometimes graveyard dirt. And you got to remember, old graveyard dirt. Because these coffins that, mid-century and on, they don't disintegrate so badly. You've seen them floating in flood zones. Okay, so the likelihood of the ancestor that's in that particular coffin actually going back to the earth, especially if they're encased in concrete. That's why I tell people, go back and see if you can find the graves of some of your oldest ancestors. Because by this time they're trees, they're leaves, they're part of the land where they went to. That whole birth circle. So what I'm telling you is, sometimes we don't have everything we need. Some things that we are going to have to do extra things to get what we need, whether that's initiating, getting on a plane, driving in a car, going to get your grandparents graveyard dirt or ashes. I'll be at somebody's house. If they wouldn't give me some of my relatives, I'd wait, open up that urn while everybody was asleep, take a little out, take it home. That's the weird reality for people who believe in the things that we do. And then it's so funny because the more and more you practice, you develop relationships with your spirits. I mean, heck, most of us swore up and down, back and forth. We had relationships with Jesus Christ. So I don't understand what the problem is. But you're going to go and you're going to read a lot of things. I think that, doing work, because then you get those spiritual experiences. So when you're experiencing them again. That's a real part about being consistent about certain things that you do. And that's why a lot of initiated religions have specific things that you do. I think that they would, by the ordinary person, these are some of the things we're leaving out of our morning routine, especially when it comes to what we want to manifest in our lives. Okay? So yeah, get them ashes. Scoop, scoop, scoop. But I read different books by different authors, and sometimes they're absolutely on point, sometimes they're not. That's just the way it is. Sometimes I'm on point, sometimes I'm not. But you have to read enough of those to be like, is this on the really, really far side of no, 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 no? Or is it somewhere in the middle but still has valuable pieces to learn? And that's research. The only way you learn comparative things is through research. Religions, you know. You think about when you go on Amazon, you buy something, right? You buy something, and I'm going to tell you, this happens every single time. It usually be something expensive. I just want it. Hit that button and get it, and it's like, oh my God. And then you read the reviews. Spirituality is kind of like reading the reviews first. Whether those reviews come from your ancestors or, your spirit, your gods. Get that information first. Read the reviews on a situation, and then listen, because we get the reviews sometimes. And just like when we were teenagers, we're not any better as adults. Y'all just lying. We are not any better as adults. We just got more money that can kind of get us out of our mess ups sometimes, or have developed certain dysfunctional habits that will get us out of situations. Okay? But, so, right, that's the first thing to recognize about yourself. But when you start reading this stuff, you have to go with what goes with your heart. Yes, anthropological journals. Let me tell you something, y'all. I studied everything I could. I studied literature, which then led me to anthropology, to history. And I made it my business to study the works of black people in undergrad and in grad school. I'm sure they knew what my dissertation, well, my comprehensive exam, I didn't go for my PhD. It was The Theory of Guilt. It was a comparative study between The House of Seven Gables by Nathaniel Hawthorne and Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. I know they knew whose their comprehensive exam that belonged to. So that's the thing, getting close to your ancestors. And that's why we talk about intellectual ancestors. We look up to certain people with certain abilities. Sometimes we have expectations based on certain people with certain abilities. Sometimes realistic, sometimes not so. But those are people that we admire. And eventually those people pass on. And so, one of the things that was said in our temple talk today is so incredibly important is, what is your legacy? What kind of ancestor you going to be? What kind of ancestor you going to be? Really, really, it's kind of telltale by the things you left behind. Did you leave wisdom? Did you leave happiness? Did you leave joy? Or did you leave discord? And, and those relatives that left discord, depending, they might not be the ones you want to mess with. It just depends. But they may be some of the ones that be the most helpful, Do some things that maybe, great-grandma won't do, But I think that even when you're a bad parent, or I'm not going to say when you're a bad parent, it's when you do something bad as a parent. Because most of us my daughter just told me that the uniform she needs for tomorrow's in the basement. But the basement's covered with primer, so I don't know what to tell her. Especially not in the middle of this. So, well, the thing is, and that's another thing, y'all can go, some people have the blessing, I don't, of having all of these artifacts from great-great-great-great-grandfather, okay? And sometimes you know, and sometimes you don't. But that's another thing I advise, especially when you're starting on this journey, is only work with the ones you do know. And know the ones that, knew you looked out for you. There had to be someone. Unfortunately, there's sometimes situations where a person doesn't know. But you can always just put something like water, candle and flowers in its place. You don't have to start going and grabbing ancestors any more than you have to start grabbing spirits. You know, if you call out, they'll answer. And there's also, as with anything magical, there is a mundane responsibility. And that mundane responsibility is like, hey, why don't you go get your DNA done? People can believe it, people cannot. But, you know, I ask that the spirits, which are powerful to me, make sure that that is as close to accurate as I can get. And I'm going to go with it. Because voodoo has always felt like home. And I now know why. It's based on my DNA. Didn't have any idea at all why. It just didn't make me uncomfortable. And that's what you really have to go with. So if you got a spell and you don't have all the ingredients, there is a blog post. Oh, I gotta find that. I want one of y'all to find this for me, please. It's an article about don't change the sentence of a spell. So if you have to, say for example, write your ancestors' names down on a petition paper, and you put your petition on a petition paper and burn that to ashes, that is your graveyard dirt. You got to improvise, because nothing stops spirit. People are always like, oh, can we do a reading on a web call? This Jetson stuff right here. Or on the telephone. And I'm like, sure, because the last time I checked, spirits pretty much go where they want to. They'll tell you what you need to know. And so that's kind of what I want to tell you guys. Sometimes there are very, very specific rules. And in those cases, it's in your best interest to follow them. When it comes to religions and things like that. But when it comes to like working your own spell and working with your ancestors who love you, nobody's going to know how to talk to your ancestors better than you. That's why doing a lot of work for people, it's got to be something real serious before my ancestors would be like, okay. Because it's really important when you do some of these things for yourself. Okay? So anyways, I'll see you on Thursday, Daisy. I'm going to go downstairs before they prime and get all of the linens. Oh, God. In the home stretch. And well, the floor was quite unfortunate. Look on my page. So anyways, but it's going to be a big slumber party. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be lit. We're going to have 7 people here. And that's really cool. It's going to be fun, you know. But not much. Not much, Daisy. I'll show you when you get here. But just a little. But there are other places. It's a combination of areas. Because what you'll find about voodoo is it's from a number of different nations. I'm going to say nations. Don't say tribe. There were nations. Because this is a continent, not a country. So there's lots and lots and lots of different nations that voodoo is part of. And you can learn that simply by reading books. It's not just Benin, it's Dahomey, it's Congo, it's Nago. There's a lot of them. Because, you know, let's put it this way. Haiti probably had the most diverse African population, you know, than probably any place. It's seen within voodoo where all of these different things come from. So, it just, you know, takes time. And oh God, it takes time to sit down and read a book. I've got a master's degree in English. I know this because everybody, I'm reading all the time, but I'm reading things online. And that's another thing you have to start doing. And one of the things that I'm about to do, I'm going to take an hour every day to learn something new. Bill Gates was talking about doing that. Just take one hour a day. Like, for example, next year, I mean, this whole gardening thing, you know, things didn't all croak and die, but they weren't popping up out the ground. So I have to research ways of growing certain things that I really want to eat this time, rather than just trying to grow some of the things that were the easiest. And those are going to take some extra care. You know, each plant's going to have its different quirks. It's so funny because you used to think that your people, if you ever watched your people plant vegetables, they just threw the seeds in the ground and everything was just pow. That's what it seemed like to me. I don't understand. Me and veggies are having a hard time. But I also think it's kind of the unnatural environment that they're in. Because I am older, I don't want to get on my knees weeding, so we put in a weed barrier. But the soil here is amazing. So maybe I'll have to weed. Maybe we'll have to cut out and dig through that weed barrier. Like I say, everything, every religion, every spirit is going to have different ways that you work with them. So that's why it's probably utterly impossible to use somebody else's spell absolutely the same as they did all the time. In fact, you don't want to. These books are meant to inspire you. They're meant to say, hey, if I was in this situation, I'd do this, this, and this. And then you start picking up patterns, you know. But you know, like we were talking about, history and literature is the best place to find legitimate conjure practices. Art always imitates life. And we always did magic right up under your nose. And just like in Men in Black, if you tell people it's fantasy, they'll believe it's not real. So that's what they've been doing. So, hi everybody. So that's all I wanted to tell you. You know, yeah, there's certain spells that have been on and popping with graveyard dirt. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I don't use it. Do I use it a lot? No. I kind of like working with that mean spirit of the root, general spirit of your head type of thing before you have to go out and call all the big guns in to take care of something for you. Because that's really, I think, how you should be working. Because God is busy. That's what they say in voodoo. God is busy. So, you know, that helps you. Especially if you do root and herb magic or any type of object magic. If you do magic with crystals. Whatever you do magic with. I'm sure there's so many different things. You can do magic with metalwork. You can do magic with cross-stitching. You can do magic with cooking. I open my clipboard that I use when I go to, sorry, my battery went low. I open my clipboard that I use when I go to my shows. And I realized I had this whole list of hoodoo properties for common ingredients in our food. So magic comes in a variety of forms. So maybe that spell will tell you to light a candle for such and such and such and such. And around the candle, put these herbs and roots. Okay, or maybe they say around, and that's, you know, that really doesn't work for you. All you maybe even have is some oils. So if you're using the same oils with the same herbal properties, you're not changing the sentence. You're just using different nouns. Oil instead of root. But you're not changing the entire root. You're not substituting sulfur for lavender. That's where people run into problems. And that requires either one, do it a lot so you know where this stuff is. Priestess Miriam is amazing. Well, you know, I watched this video of her just knowing what to go and take off the shelf, you know, and drop into whatever she was doing. Like opening no books. That is because of practice, you know. And if you're practicing from books, fine. But at some point, there's going to have to be a point. Memorizing things. 48. But you start living that rather than just memorizing it. Then you'll remember. So, you know, everybody's spells are going to be different. That's what they call about making magic happen. You know, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to work for you. You know, there's all of this out in the open with witchcraft and spells and magic. It's weird to some people, you know, because it was such an incredibly personal thing, at least within your family. Maybe that's as public as the execution of started, you know? So, you know, just because it's out there, you still got to research to make sure it's right. Using the right herbs and roots, using what is what I have right. You know, how can I switch this up? How can I make this my own and create new magic? That's the point. It's energy. It's manifestation. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to make it over and over and over and over again. So that's the point. I think that is more important than having a particular ingredient. There are certain rituals where you have to have it, but in the cases that it's not mandatory, and like I said, there's enough variety in the work where you don't have to do that, especially by developing a strong relationship with your ancestors. And trust me, every day it shows me how it's going to change and get better, and how it cannot grow if I don't do anything about it. But, I get shown every day something different. And that's why it's good to spend an hour a day learning something different. So I'm going to try to stick to this. It's hard, but I'm just going to try. And then maybe once a week I'll tell you the things I learned this week that I didn't know before. Just because I spent some time reading something or looking something up. I try to do that when I post stuff for you guys, or even before I post an opinion. Sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I don't even look because I just know I'm right. Human beings. So there you go. I'm gonna go eat this salad and I'm going to bed. I had a great weekend. Thank you to Kenya and Kyle, I believe that's your husband's name. You guys were awesome. That exceeded expectations. And you want to know a lie? I told Kenya this is why that the Detroit Conjure and Folk Magic Festival exceeded my expectation, because when we got the initial numbers of the projected people that were supposed to be there, I was like, oh boy, like I've over prepared. But then I remember, because like I said, you're human. When you start training yourself out of that thought first, is when you know you've really grown. But I was like, whoa, pull that back, stop, take backsy. I'm going to have an amazing time. And I'm going to meet my financial goals as well as my spiritual goals, because I also see this as an outreach to people, because it does empower people. And when I changed my mindset about what it was going to be, I was like, forget them numbers, the spirits will make a way. And they did. I find that when I think another way, it goes the way where my mind takes it. And so I am responsible. I'm responsible for where I let my mind go. And what parts of my mind I give to other people. Some people I just can't. It's not that, it's not about hate or anything like that. There are people that just like, you don't mesh well. I'm like closing the doors to them in my brain. Because giving people space in your brain that cause you pain, that you can't change, that you're no longer around, it's not a benefit. It's taking up space that's useful in your life. So those are some of the things that I work on all the time. And people really need to know. I don't know if anybody here got baptized ever. Like, they were going to get real serious about church. They were going to be real good with the Lord. And as soon as I did it, all kinds of tests, a couple I failed horribly, came my way. It's no different in spirituality. And, at some point you have to start looking at everything as a test. Not knowing when to clown and knowing when to clown. No, just look at it all as a test. Really strategically think about what you're going to do. And it's so funny because when I get upset, but trust me, I've always take the time to think about why I feel the way I do. Could this be handled better? And sometimes it's not till after something happens that you realize this could have went a different way. But that's what you do. You learn. So religions learn, spirits grow. Every time somebody dies, we get more spirits. And we're going to get more Catholic saints. We're going to get more Loa. So get in on the ground floor opportunity, especially with the people that are near and dear to you that have passed and you were close to. See what they think about your faith, your path. They might even tell you to choose a different one. I don't think that people are caught up on certain things that are human things to be caught up on as spirits. But there are very human reasons why certain things are done. Okay? And the spirits serve us, and then we serve the spirits, or I don't know. Some people, I would think that we would serve them first. That would be my goal, but that's not the way it's usually presented in magic. It's like, ooh, have the spirit come give you something, and I'll just be like, why don't we get to know them first? So, if you were a Christian and your relationship with Jesus Christ was important, then most certainly, whether you're still a Christian and you're a practitioner, or you are no longer a part of the church, but you're part of a different religion, you know what your obligations are. That's and you choose those, because there's nothing about anything, not Christianity, not magic, not Judaism, not Islam, not being Hindu, serving a religion. That's why they call it devotion. It does take something, but it's got to be in you to do it. It's got to be in you to give it. That's that thing that you do even when you don't want to, that you cannot let that human get in the way of your spirit. So that's all I wanted to talk about. I don't even know how long I talked, but my phone's going to die. So I'm going to go. All right? Bye.